Hello to my Learning Network friends and colleagues. Thank you for inviting me to be present remotely, and I'd like to share with you a few thoughts about the Life Reimagined concept, the Life Reimagined book that you have in front of you. And it really represents 4 decades of thinking and work, and many people say today, "Oh, Richard, you hit this boomer thing just right." And I said, well, 4 decades later, after writing and thinking and speaking about this. So let me share with you 3 things quickly. Number 1 is that, what is this whole, why Life Reimagined? Number 2, what is Life Reimagined? And number 3 is, what does Life Reimagined really say? So why Life Reimagined? Well, there is a movement going on across the world and across the U.S., and it's not just a boomer phenomenon. In the early 1900s, the average life expectancy was age 47. Now it's in the 80s and 90s and longer, and we've added 3+ decades to the human life. And so there are 3 revolutions going on simultaneously. One is that, it's the longevity revolution. People are living longer and having to perhaps work longer or want to work longer and be healthier longer, be related, connected, as the theme of your meeting is about, longer, and things like that. The second revolution is the productivity revolution. People aren't retiring. Even AARP has dropped the R, retirement, out of the word AARP, out of the acronym AARP. It's now AARP, the organization or the magazine. So productivity revolution means people are working longer because they have to or because they want to. That means reinventing their work life, work reimagined. And the third thing is a purpose revolution. Across the country today, many, many people, with all the acceleration of change in the world, are looking for meaning. Meaning in their lives, meaning in their relationships, a reason to get up in the morning. And even the healthcare industry is now recognizing the science of purpose. That people who have a reason to get up in the morning tend to live longer, they tend to stay healthier, they tend to be more productive, and ultimately happier. So, what is Life Reimagined? That's kind of why it's going on, why we call it a movement that's going on. So, the second thing, in the book, there are 2 models that really represent Life Reimagined. The first model is this. The traditional view of life was this. Down at the bottom is age, from childhood to adolescence to adulthood to retirement to old age. The model, the last 50+ years, has been grow up, grow old. And so we grow and we work and we raise families and we do what we do. And then there's been much humor around this, and not so humorous around this as well. Over the hill, and all of the language that's been used, that we hit a certain point in life and we're in decline and we're no longer productive, we're no longer useful to society in many ways. The boomers are rejecting that, as are the millennials and many other people. So we've researched, and I've been researching for years, the new phase of life, the new view of life. Same bottom line, we grow up starting here, or we age rather, starting here. We go through childhood and adolescence, and then we hit certain points, inflection points in our lives, transition points, where we have the opportunity, the choice to grow again. And so we have these 3 decades, maybe 4 decades, that used to be called retirement, that used to be over the hill. Now we have a new hill, and it's a very exciting new hill. That's what Life Reimagined is all about. It's a new phase of life. It's a guidance system, because millions of people who are moving into this, one person turning 50 every 8 seconds, one person turning 65 every 10 seconds, 10,000 people a day over the next 19 years or so, moving into this new category of life, looking for a new guidance system, a new language to discuss, to talk about this, and a new community, new ways to be connected, to be in relationship with one another. So why Life Reimagined? What is Life Reimagined? Finally, what does Life Reimagined say? The first thing Life Reimagined says is that we're all an experiment of one. Even though we might all be experiencing this kind of thing, we all do it our own way, with our own time, and our own uniquenesses. Secondly, Life Reimagined says that isolation is fatal. Even though we are all unique, going it alone is not a good idea. We hunger for community. And so the theme of connection, very relevant to Life Reimagined, and obviously relevant because you picked it for your meetings today and the next couple of days. So isolation is fatal. We know people that go it alone don't do as well. Recovering from an illness, go home. If you don't have a committed listener there, even a dog or a cat or a pet, you don't do as well. And so many people looking at relationships, friendships, community, place, where they live, how they live, in new ways in this new phase of life. It's very, very exciting in many ways. And the third thing that Life Reimagined says is this: purpose is fundamental. It's not a nice-to-have thing. Finding a reason to get up in the morning is fundamental to aging. It's fundamental to longevity, and it's fundamental to our happiness. So in the old model, just to summarize, which looked like this, often we talked about freedom from. We no longer have to get up in the morning. We no longer have to go to work. It's the freedom from doing things that we didn't want to do. The new language of aging is the language of living. And what we talk about here is a new phase of life. It's the freedom to. It's the freedom to make choices in this new phase of life. Every movement needs a manifesto. And the manifesto for Life Reimagined is choice, curiosity, and courage. And Chris Cappy is going to take you through some exercises or some questions, some dialogue to talk about choice, curiosity, and courage in this next phase of life as it relates to our connectedness to each other in this group. So I thank Chris for inviting me to do this and for being a great friend and colleague and over the time we've known each other. So let me just end by sharing one story. I've been going to Africa for many, many years, leading walking safaris there, 3 decades, and I'm going to actually be there next month in January. And I've been meeting with the Hadza hunter-gatherers for many, many years, the last of the remaining hunter-gatherers who have a lot to teach us about connection, because what they claim is the only way they have survived and thrived, they're called the original people, for 100,000 plus years is through sharing, through connection. They're a total sharing culture. It's not the law of the land of the survival of the fittest. It's the survival of the collaborators, the connectors, the connected with each other and sharing. So I'm interviewing and talking with one of the wise elders who happens to be in his 90s. His name happens to be Kampala. And he just died actually a couple months back in his 90s. He's kind of my iconic Life Reimagined elder. So we're sitting around the fire and talking about their life and their culture and being an elder. And he says, "Richard, can we talk for a minute offline? Can we?" So I said, "Sure." So we push the pause button, we go away from the fire, and he says, "Richard, do you know what the 2 most important days in your life are?" Maybe you have an answer for that. I said, "Sure. Birth and death." And he went, "Oh, jeez. You came all the way over here in an airplane, drove out here in a Land Rover, you're sleeping in a nice tent, you got a backpack. We don't have any of that. We sleep in these huts, these straw, we're semi-nomadic. However, the 2 most," so I said, "Okay, Kampala, what are the 2 most important days?" And he said, "Well, you got one right, birth." He said, "But the second most important day in your life in our traditions here is the day you determine why you were born, what you're here to do, who you're here to be, how you connect, how you fit into society." I think we need that kind of wisdom in our culture today. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to crossing paths with each of you in the coming days, and thanks again for inviting me to be part of this meeting today.